It looks like we're live, my friend.
We are live. We are live and we are happening. Welcome to yet another exciting episode of
Bamboozled,
where we tell you about all of the lies from the media, from the government, from everywhere for the last decade after decade. And here we are to tell you the truth. No more being bamboozled. Ryan, how's it going tonight? What's going on?
It's going great, Jason. It is a beautiful day here. Nikki, welcome.
Hey, Patriots, how you doing?
We are doing very well. Thank you. It is a great day here, and we have a really great show lined up for today with some good talking points to probably stir up a little controversy through this whole thing too, I think, as we dive into this. But I would like to start off by saying, if you have the opportunity on social media to share out this link that you're watching this on, you're probably watching on YouTube. We would love to have you subscribe to the American Patriot Press and follow along. That way you get these live notifications when we go live, and you can turn on that little bell icon and get the push notification right on your phone. We'd love to have you join us there every week here on Bamboozled. AmericanPatriotCouncil.org, our website there, always houses all of our good information, and a couple of things going on with the American Patriot Council. I know as Christmas approaches, we have an amazing Christmas parade scheduled at the Michigan State Capitol, and we're going to have a great rally ahead of time. When the Gretsch stole Christmas and the people took it back. So that's coming up next week on December 23rd. If you're a Michigan resident, or I know a lot of our audience watches from around the country, if you know people in Michigan or want to come to Michigan for this, come on out. We're going to have a great Christmas celebration here in Michigan on the 23rd from 4 to 7 p.m. We've received quite a few donations to the American Patriot Council for that as well. So I want to say thank you to all of those that have recently donated to the American Patriot Council. Everything we do is 100% volunteer. All of that money goes right back in to fight for the future of America and for the great patriots across our state and across our country.
Ryan, we had a gold sponsor. Let's shout them out on the channel if we can at some point.
Definitely. Let me flip back over to that real quick. That would be gold sponsor is Kidwell Roller Rink, and we also had a platinum sponsor with Anthony DiMaggio, and that's two of our most recent sponsors there for coming up next week. And we have a lot of parade participants, lots of people that are going to be attending for the rally and then for the parade. Very family friendly, right? This is not going to be really geared towards a lot of things with politics and the topics that we've been talking at a lot of our rallies. This is going to be some of that, right? You're going to have some of that, but it's going to be geared towards the holidays, family celebrations. So grab the family, come on out for the parade. It's going to be fun. It's going to be a blast, and it's going to be patriotic.
Candy, passing out candy. We've got floats. We've got a good time. Hey, listen, I know Ryan just said it. Make sure you're sending this text message, share it in Messenger, put the link out if you can. As you know, Facebook took us down. We had, a following of tens of thousands of people that would watch when we were on Facebook. To our demise, our own fault. We should have been building our audience elsewhere. But please help us grow our audience today. Make sure you click that subscribe button. Make sure you jump on every week at 7:30 and check out Bamboozled. Tonight, we've got a good show for you. Ryan, what is the show about tonight?
We're going to talk a little bit about fascism or freedom. We're going to talk a little bit about the far left and how the far left has a lot of the tendencies of Hitler's Nazi Germany and the far, far right. And we're going to make some comparisons on that and what those comparisons related to the actual actions that we're seeing being taken by certain elected, and let's not even talk about a specific party. Let's just talk about the actions that are being taken by some of the people that are elected. We're not giving a free pass to anybody that's got an R behind their name. Some people think, oh, you guys are just toting the Republican. No, we're not.
Nope.
This is all about freedom. The American Patriot Council mission is to restore and sustain a constitutional government in the United States of America. If you align with that, I don't give a crap what letter you have behind your name, right? That's the main thing that we got going on. And let's have some intelligent conversations wrapped around the things that matter to both of those people in those parties. So show lined up.
I want to say this, and you can read it at the bottom of the screen, but pay attention. Pay attention. Pay close attention to the redefining of words. We're going to talk about a pretty surprising thing that kind of dawned on Ryan and I the other night. We were having a conversation, and it's pretty surprising, but we know, a lot of us know, what we've called the left for a long time, and you'll hear me say it that way, and I'm not going to get to why quite yet, but what we've called the left for a long time have changed the definition of different words in order to, make them sound better. Why do you think they changed the definition of words, Ryan?
They're going to make it sound more friendly, maybe, or they're going to make it sound like it's a good thing, right? They shift the mentality, and when we use words, we shape pictures in people's minds. So while you might have something that you're doing, right, you name it one thing and it sounds good, but really there's something else going on behind the scenes. You want to maybe, Nikki, you got any thoughts on that before we maybe jump into some of those words?
I think sometimes some of the words they want to play with to maybe stir some things back up as far as prejudice, or the whole, how they want to keep that little racial wheel just churning. Like every time that you forget, we know some of us look different and we're all cool with that. But these people, they really want to just focus on that. And, here's this word and here's this thing. Like how we were talking about the creation of the words, like putting social and distancing together. They don't go together. Yeah. Inner and city. We had never heard inner city until the politicians came up with, hey, this is inner city and then this is city. No, it's just a city. It's the same thing.
So there's a few words scrolling across the bottom of the screen here. Lately, we've seen these people, anytime you disagree with anything they say, they call you a racist. Now, I don't understand, if you take the definition of racist, right? You take the definition of it and you say, what is a racist? That is someone who judges others based on the race or origin or where they come from or the color of their skin or whatever. That's what racism is. But I remember on April 30th, Ryan, you might remember, Nikki, I know you were there. On April 30th, we had a big rally that had nothing to do with race whatsoever. It had nothing to do with any race at all. And basically what they did was, they said the next Monday, our governor, Gretchen Whitmer, came on TV and she said, this is some of the most awful racism and worst things that have happened in the history of our country. And from that, I'm telling you, from that, and I know it was said before, the whole militias are white supremacist idea came up. And from that, it snowballed into the Proud Boys are all a bunch of racists, and everybody who's conservative is all racist. And they've been doing that to Donald Trump for 4 years. He's a racist because why? Because he disagrees with them. Or let's talk about, have you ever went on Twitter, and if you still have Facebook, shame on you, but if you ever been on social media and somebody says, you say something that makes a lot of sense and you accidentally hit an S instead of a P or something when you're typing, your thumbs were too fat or you were on your keyboard, and they say, well, you're obviously uneducated. Yep.
Like every other day.
So they exchanged the word educated for indoctrinated, right? Like educated used to mean what?
That you learned, let's call it, I'm going to use a big word, plethora, right? Of facts that are real, right? It's an actual representation of, like with math, 2 + 2 = 4. That is non-disputed, right? When we talk about certain things that have happened in history, those things can be non-disputed, right? Shakespeare, you talk about some of the things that he wrote, those things are non-disputed. You could talk about contents of some of the things, but I guess what you're getting at, Jason, and, maybe correct if there's anything different you were thinking, but what we see in some of the, especially higher education institutes, right? It's been teaching of a narrative, right? We want to indoctrinate. And we want to teach a certain set of things to shift, like what you were talking about, Nikki, where they want to shift the thinking process, and whether it's geared towards, identity politics, or geared towards race, or geared towards, something that happened in history that, we want to blame whatever that might be, whether it's a nation or a certain group of people on, or just making that that narrative that they want to fit for certain outcome versus delivering facts and letting people critically think and understand.
Well, here's one that I'll throw in there. Old fashioned, right? Old fashioned used to be a cool thing. People would collect old things. They would talk about their grandfather or their great grandfather, how they fought in a war and they were these huge patriots, and that was really good. But now it starts early. Yeah. Now they talk about old fashioned as ideas are old fashioned, or thinking is old fashioned, right? Like to critically think. Let me give you an example. 100 years ago, 200 years ago, whatever, and I'm sure it ebbs and flows throughout history, but 200 years ago, Americans would, people here would, they would take a family trade, right? And education was dad or mom taking the son or daughter, and dad took the son out into the field and said, this is how you fix a plow. This is how you plow the field. This is how you do our profession. And this isn't to say that ed only works with old stuff. I mean, you could have a factory, or you could have a business as a butcher or a meat processing plant or whatever, and dad would take the son back there and go, this is how you do it. That is getting educated, learning to do things, developing skills, right? Like one of the things I've spent over a decade on is getting better at sales, right? I practice that. I get educated in that field as much as I possibly can, right? So Ryan, I know you've taken some Toastmasters classes, right? And so you get educated in how to speak publicly. Nikki, I know you've been getting educated in weaponry recently, right? You're learning about weaponry. That's education, right? So those are the things that are education, and education is not indoctrination. And even the Google definition of education right now says the process of receiving or giving a systematic instruction. They've literally redefined what education is, a systematic instruction. Now, what's the difference between instruction? That education now means instruction. Do this, do that, think this way, stand in line, punch a clock, sit down, stand up, do what you're told. Indoctrination.
Just like when you buy a phone, we got some phones from Kroger. They were on sale. They were like 50 something a piece. And you go to use the phone, and it's like how I have a Chromebook. It was a regular laptop, but someone put a certain system in it, called it, make it, like geared towards Chrome, Google, Gmail, the Play Store, the newsstand. There's like all this stuff that comes with this phone. And I think that's a huge indoctrination like method. And then if your phone updates, oh, here's the COVID, tracing. And if your phone updates, oh, here's more reasons to be paranoid, but like we're not paranoid, it's really happening. I think that's the same type of thing. Like you go to, like years ago, I remember all the things I was taught. We used to hang out with our friends. We'd stay out till the lights came on. We'd play with dirt. Like I remember making mud pies and, scratched up knees, falling off my skateboard, just all of this stuff. All of these things are part of education as well. And now because of this whole, new thing that's going on post scam, they want you to just forget everything that you know. And then how the hell does Google know better than we? Like I'm older than Google. I know better than Google does.
It's interesting to see when you look at, a source like Merriam-Webster for definitions, and you see what it says. And that's usually a pretty good spot to go for, true definitions of words, right? And then you just type it into Google, and you get a different definition, right? And a lot of times that doesn't even align fully. Like it might have like 50% of what the Merriam-Webster word has, right? That Google definition bamboozles you, right? It can create a narrative that is not necessarily true. Then you jump into Wikipedia, and Wikipedia's got its whole other thing there telling you about, their story of, what they see it as. And again, that doesn't necessarily line up with, the true definitions of the words.
Well, Wikipedia is like a genius way of redefining words because it's user operated. Wikipedia, you go, and what's interesting is they'll edit you too, because I've got a Wikipedia membership and I can go on there and edit things, but they always change it back to whatever somebody else typed before.
Wow.
And so what's interesting is it's genius because you're just letting any old Yahoo jump on and say, oh, that means this, right? So let me ask you, what does the word abort mean?
To stop, to get rid of.
Get out. Stop.
End, right? Get out of here. Like, yeah, the mission is abort.
Abort.
It does not mean. What does abort not mean?
Doesn't mean keep going. Doesn't mean keep it alive. Doesn't mean push on forward.
Right.
It doesn't mean kill a baby.
Wow.
It does not.
Sure doesn't.
It doesn't. And even if you put ION on the end of it, it still doesn't mean kill a baby. Take the original. Now, if I type that in, I guarantee Google's going to come back with, yeah, murder a baby. But the reality is it doesn't mean that. It's been redefined to mean that. This is mass indoctrination, guys. This isn't minimal, and it's leading up to what we're going to get to later in the show as we start to talk about what some of their real intention in all this redefinition has been. But they're controlling populations with these words. See, I can go back to biblical times, and I can read the oldest history, and whether you like the Bible or you don't, the oldest history we have comes from it. Okay, of people. And nations all around the nation of Israel were sacrificing their children to other gods. Now, what people don't realize about other gods is it's not always some mystical golden calf or some stars or some weird. Sometimes the other god could just be what? I don't know, convenience, selfishness, wanting to keep my life the way it is, my possessions, my things that will get screwed up if I don't take this. And so what they do is the people, the real evil redefines the word to make it easier for people to trick themselves into being evil without actually having to admit it, right? If abortion clinics said murder your baby spot on the front of the wall, do you think as many people would go in there?
Exactly. That's another great example of taking a word and making it mean whatever they want it to.
Right.
Wow.
If it said murder your baby here with a big sign like a neon light, do you think a lot of people would go in there?
Nope.
No, so they change it. Abortions. And they don't even say abortion because people have kind of figured out what that means. Now they say family planning center or Planned Parenthood. How do you look at that redefinition? What are you talking about? You're not talking about Planned Parenthood. You're talking about
avoiding parenthood.
Killing children so you don't have to plan your parenthood. Look at the opposite. Up is down, down is up with this evil. Yep. And I say evil because it's just not people. The evil has been in the world for a long time.
The battle is definitely a spiritual battle more so than flesh.
Let's talk about rebuke being exchanged. The word hate. Nikki, you've got kids. What do your kids think when you discipline them? And when I say discipline, I don't mean it in the regiment their life so that they learn. I'm saying like they get in trouble and you bring down the hammer. What do they think?
They don't like it, but they know that they stepped out of. I basically have like 5 rules. You're not going to be happy about it. You're not going to be
small government in your home.
I'm sorry.
No, that's good. 5 rules, small government. Keep going.
Yeah,
sorry.
Exactly. And basically the 4th rule is don't mess up the 2nd rule, and the 5th rule is like don't forget the 1st one. So if you just stay with these three, you should stay within the lines of this. My youngest, they all got computers, and because they worked this summer and they saved their money, so they have these awesome computers. And I was gone for a while, and then I get this, phone call. Oh yeah, well, Ladybug kind of spilled water on our computer, and I was just like, but then you're like, wait a minute, you bought it, you earned the money, you bought it, you're responsible for this. This is how you learn. So I call up the computer guy, and he's going to order a motherboard because he went through some stuff, and that'll probably fix it. But it's I'm all about the consequences, because when I'm 40 something, I was born in the 70s. I'm a freaking dinosaur. So I remember you would if I messed up, I wasn't going to get another computer. I had to save, I had to be 30 years old to get another computer. I'm so serious. They did not play with me like that. So it's called consequences. If I tell you no, if I tell you to turn the water off, I've done too much work for them to screw up. But when they screw up, and I can't stay mad at them, because that is how they learn, and I don't need them to have a grudge, because they already, I have 2 teenagers and one almost a teenager, so they naturally hate me now anyway. That's what they're supposed to do. But I can't hate them. I have to keep that in perspective.
But they know somewhere deep down, because they've been raised that way, that it isn't hate, right?
Exactly.
The world, and you watch, and I mean, television shows will make parents look stupid, especially men, by the way. But they'll make parents and fathers especially look really stupid. Kids know better than their parents. I remember an instance, and I don't remember what it was about, but Obama actually said that. Your parents are a little older than you. You understand this better. That is backwards. That is not what it's supposed to be. I respect my elders. Why? Because my elders have wisdom to impart on me, but it's rebuke. If I'm screwing up, the best thing Ryan could do, or Nikki could do, or Cynthia, or any of you in the audience, if I'm screwing up, the best thing you could do for me is to rebuke me. And I have learned through critical thinking and through the right people and through church members and small groups that the best thing that can happen is you get rebuked when you're screwing up. But the world would teach people that if I say, well, that's wrong and that's going to screw up your life, oh, you hate me, which is where all this racism and all this misogyny talk and all of this other stuff comes from. It's hate. What they do is they turn it around, and they actually, and the Bible says it perfectly, he who hates the rod hates his son. Real hate is either being too lazy to discipline your kids, or too lazy to tell your friend or your neighbor when they're stepping out of line.
Yep.
Or it's actually tricking them into believing that it's wrong, which is even worse. I think there's something in the Bible about a millstone, and water, but it's even worse to take that information and go, yeah, you hate this person. You hate everybody in the ghetto because you said if the people in the ghetto would learn that there's a way out and start talking critical thinking and sense, then all of a sudden you're a hateful person, right?
Wow.
Backwards, they're making the world.
Yep. That's the guy that's true.
Yeah, the responsibility is taken out of it, right? And I think a lot of that is taught through that indoctrination program, like we talked about earlier, right? The lack of an education in order to understand those things. And then when we talk about rebuking, and you talked about, Jason, you mentioned to Nikki, like when your kids do that, what's the reason why? And I mean, you want your kids to turn out well, you want them to learn, right? And become educated, Nikki. And so, you do those things for them. Look at our government now, both parties, right? I'm not picking on either party with this, but what are the consequences? What are the consequences for some of the actions that these people that have been elected to office get throughout the years? What are the consequences if they violate constitutional rights, if they do something illegal? I mean, very few of them have ever been put in jail, and it has been some pretty substantial things where they've really pushed far.
Yep.
So, what does that look like when you have a generation that thinks that they can go out and riot? They think that they can go out and burn things down, destroy things, kill people, all in the name of we're unheard, right? well, what exactly do you want? And that's not what this show's about. We don't got to dive into that. But if there's no consequences, like you're talking about, Nikki, then you get government officials eventually one day that think they can do whatever they want to. And then places are locked down. They got whole states put in their little homes of prisons. And, we could go on and on with that. And I think that kind of leads a little bit into fascism talk. Maybe we could talk some about that. But, when there's a lack of accountability, right, it leads to bad things.
Well, like here's an interesting thought. Now we talked about hate, right? And they've actually made what is loving to be considered hate. Now let's look what they've done with the word love. I'm a Christian. I'm going to read from the Bible because I think this is a really good description of what love is. And love is an action. It is not an emotion. There's emotions behind the action, but it is an action. It says love is patient. Love is kind. It does not envy. It doesn't boast. It is not proud. It does not dishonor others. It is not self-seeking. It is not easily angered. I got to work on that one. It keeps no record of wrongs. Honey, are you watching the show? It keeps no record of wrongs. And it always protects, and it always trusts, it always hopes, and it always perseveres. Those are actions, guys, right? And so the reason I bring that up is because they have turned love into an emotion. They have taken love and said, hey, listen, if you love your kids, you're not going to spank them. If you love this person, why are you telling them they're wrong? Well, let me ask you a question. When there's no consequences for places like Chaz, right? Places like the new Portland, Oregon autonomous zone, right? There's no consequence. The police are doing nothing. They've been told to stand down. Is that love? Because I don't think that's a very happy place. And I challenge anyone to go there where it's free and you can do anything you want and there's no rules and nobody's there to hate on you for doing whatever you want, drugs, whatever. Does that look like a happy place to you?
It's got to be filthy.
Anyone smiling there?
No, not at all. It's got to be just so dirty and vile and sickening. And I mean, if you're getting drunk all night, somebody's going to throw up. Somebody's going to be laying in it. Nobody's going to clean it. That's sickening. Or they're out here burning stuff down. What if you go to burn something down and then gas is on you, so then you burn to death? But if no one's going to intervene in that, then they're going to be, like they're just all going to light up on fire, and then we don't have to deal with them anymore. I don't get it. It's sickening.
I'm typing something.
That's not love. There's no love in that. No self-love.
Just
Bamboozled.
We tend to see that happen. Sorry, go ahead, Jason.
I was just typing this in. So if we've established that this evil that's in the world, right, and we're not going to address them as a certain group of people because that's what they want us to do. They want us to group people together and say this person's this way and that person's that way, and that's why it's this. So this evil has been indoctrinated into people so that they believe love is hate and hate is love. We've just established that in conversation. So now let's think about this. What is right and what is left?
Wow.
Because they keep saying that we're fascists. I hear it 27 times a day on Twitter or on comments on here or whatever. They say that we are fascists, right? They have whole cities designed or autonomous zones now designed to end fascism. They're marching around DC attacking people in the name of ending fascism. But what's so funny is the definition of fascism, and this is even the Google definition. Ryan, you've got another one. I'll have you read it in a second. But fascism is a form of far-right authoritarian ultranationalism. We're going to break this down. Characterized by dictatorial power, forcible suppression of opposition, and strong regimentation of society and of the economy, which came to prominence in the early 20th century Europe. So here's where it's important. So let me ask you this. Authoritarian. Gretchen Whitmer, authoritarian or not authoritarian?
Ugh.
Is she authoritarian?
Authoritarian.
I'm gonna have to go with a thumbs up on that one.
You're going authoritarian. So thumbs up, guys. Put it in the comments too. Thumbs up is authoritarian, or are they? And thumbs down is I'm wrong. So authoritarian, Gretchen Whitmer. What about Como? Is he authoritarian? How about the people on the news telling everybody how they should live and running the story for Como and for Whitmer and all of them? Okay, so let's move to ultra-nationalism, because they love to call us nationalists, right? Trump is an ultra-nationalist. He is Hitler all over again, right?
Yep.
That's what they say. So let me ask you this. Who wants to nationalize healthcare?
Is that the Democrats?
It's the people that keep calling themselves the left. But I'm looking at the definition of right. But anyway, so who wants to nationalize healthcare? Who wants to nationalize education? Who wants to end it? What's that?
Have full control over the schools and the health.
Right. Over your body,
And
over your thinking, over what you say, over where you can work and when, and who's essential and who isn't. They want to. That's so. Who wants to nationalize all those things? Is it Donald Trump that's tried to nationalize healthcare, or did he try to repeal nationalized healthcare?
Tried to repeal it.
Okay, so characterized by dictatorial powers. Would you say Donald Trump has been more dictatorial or Gretchen Whitmer?
I'm going to go with Whitmer on that one.
Yeah, fetch it.
Newsom? Newsom's pretty easygoing. He lets people do whatever they want, right?
I'm going to go with authoritarian, dictatorial on that guy there.
Yeah, Mr. Party Hardy.
Yeah.
So, have you ever been on Twitter, Ryan?
Time or two. Got a few posts.
What happens if you make a really good point about something that we're talking now?
The guy takes a break from calling people about lowering their credit card interest rate, and he wants to jump on Twitter, and he is going to attack you. He's got one follower, he's following 0, and he's gonna attack you with a bunch of nonsense.
And so him and all 27 of his accounts all attack at once, right?
That's a true statement.
So would you say that's forcible suppression of opposition?
I would say that's a try to be able to do that.
It's suppression. Forcible suppression would be like having somebody in the store to try and force me to wear a mask when I walk in, wouldn't it?
Oh, is that what that is?
It's for your health and safety.
Yep.
It's for my health and safety.
Too, right? Carrie's got the point right here, right? Perfect timing, Carrie. Well done. It's for your safety. Put the mask on. It's for your safety.
Exactly. Yeah, when I walked in Myers and the guy's just standing there with a bag, not a bag full of roses, not a bag full of Christmas ornaments because it's the holiday season, a bag full of diapers for your face. Now, lawsuits, lots of them coming, lots of them.
So hold on then. So then there's a couple more things here. Strong regimentation of society.
Ooh.
Who wants us regimented?
Who wants us free? There's
exactly. Which side is far right now? Because what I'm submitting to you is that I'm submitting to you guys, and share this. This is important. I'm submitting to you that the people that call themselves the left have been doing this, creating this environment, having a news media that makes them the left for decades, but they are the far right fascist regime.
They're redefining it just like they defined the other words. They're taking far left and they're hiding the fascism in it by their actions. And we're just pointing out the actions before we get too far away from the forcible suppression, Jason. And we don't need to dive much into it because it's obvious. Who's being forcibly suppressed in the news and on social media?
Yep.
And understand, forcibly doesn't always mean grab somebody and throw. Like forcible person or a forceful person can be vocally forceful too. Like I tend to be. Like I got to be careful not to talk over everybody all the time.
Yeah, me too. I think I had a Twitter account. Remember, I think I was I was following some people on Twitter, and Kamala, whatever her name is, the terrorist, she was talking to her friend Hayden for Biden, said something about, oh hey, like 50 days until you're in office, and I said, yeah, 50 days till you're in Gitmo. Twitter didn't like that. I haven't been able to get in my account since, because you see, it's never really your account, it's their account.
Right. Well, now, great point, Ryan. Here's what your shirt isn't on here tonight, but your shirt right now would be saying, I know I don't know what's going on, but your shirt would be saying,
right.
Your shirt would be saying that, well, what about nationalism? Because I'll read the definition and then I have something to submit to you guys. Identification with one's own nation and support for its interests, especially to the exclusion or detriment of other interests or nations, or the interests of other nations. So you would say, well, what about that? Trump loves America. He's a nationalist. Well, let me ask you a question. What nation is this evil really standing for? Is it the U.S.?
Global domination, a new world order.
The
global nation.
So they are nationalists. They're globalists. And you take the word globalist and it's the same thing as nationalism, except for it's globalism, which means for one world.
Yep.
Right? They want one world government. That's where they're headed with this thing. So if we go back, and I want to, everybody brings up Hitler, and Hitler's a great example of some of this stuff, and I have some of his stuff pulled up too. But I want to talk to you about what they did in Italy prior to that. In the 1920s, Italy came up with something called, and I think it's so close to what we have called the TV media now, the Ministry of Popular Culture. And this was the propaganda machine of Mussolini as he rose to power as a fascist leader. Some of the biggest atrocities, you can look those up yourself. But it was a ministry of the Italian government from 1937 to 1944. It was established by the fascist government in 1922 as the press office of the presidency of the council. So what they've learned, and here's what I think that these new alt-right fascists have learned that are trying to take over the world right now, they've learned that if they come out and have their own government media, people will go, whoa, 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 we've seen this too many times before. So instead, they have a secret government media. It's the same thing. Tell me that our media doesn't do exactly for them what we did for what Goebbels did for Hitler, or what the Ministry of Popular Culture did for Italy.
100%. Look at what's being fed every day on the mainstream media, right? Trump's baseless claims, all the negative things that want to come and surround any type of conservative movement. Look what they do to Joe Biden, right? It's a bunch of softballs all the time, propping him up, the office of president-elect. He's doing such a great job. They came out with an article the other day. 60% of people agree that Joe Biden is doing a great job as in his office of president-elect. Like, what are you talking about, right?
Not even a thing.
He's in the garage.
So their redefinition is even becoming more and more blatant. Like, they've found that people, oh, you need a mask. People just put the mask on, right? Yeah. Oh, you need to do this. People just stay home. Oh, you can't visit your relatives on the holidays. People, oh man, that sucks. No, man, listen. I want to ask you guys, and this is off topic for a second. We're going to come back on the topic because I think it's important to keep talking about some of this stuff. The same thing happened with Hitler, by the way, with the propaganda. But check this out. According to the Declaration of Independence, and which is the preamble to the Constitution, who gave us our rights?
God.
Endowed by our Creator.
By our Creator. Okay. So if our Creator, God, gave us our rights, And then who should we ask to exercise then?
What do you mean? I'm not following.
Should I ask permission?
Still
Should
not
I
following.
should I go to the Supreme Court and say, is it okay for me to gather?
No one has permission to. It's given to you.
I don't need to. Those are God-given rights. And the founders put that in there like that because they knew somebody would go, wait a minute, you can't gather because people are sick. Oh, you can't say what you want to say because it's mean, or you can't that's hate speech, you know, and they knew this would happen. But whose permission do I need?
No one's permission.
And who will I answer to?
That's right.
Our creator.
And so when I say I don't need permission, here's where I can govern myself, right? I can say, well, if I go to Ryan's house and I start digging holes in his front yard because I like digging holes, I'm taking away from Ryan's life, liberty, or property. So at that point, I am in offense of the liberty and the rights that I've been given, right? Or I'm offending someone else's rights against someone else's rights.
Yep.
Just like if I were to go to Ryan's house and say, Ryan, I'm sick. I'm in your front yard. You can't leave for 30 days because I'm going to hang out here.
That sounds just stupid.
Whose liberty would I be taking away? Would I be adding to Ryan's liberty by saying, hey, listen, there's some sick people out here. I want you to stay in the house whether you want to or not?
Nope. Be cruising for a bruising on that.
Yeah, I think Ryan would laugh and walk by. So would I. But
points well taken, though. Yes, absolutely. So when we look at you know, the point here with, you know, we go back to the fascism and the talks there, and the actions that are being taken, right? I think a lot of that comes from authoritarian, right? When they want to say that those unalienable rights, they don't matter, or they become permissions in someone else's minds. Like, oh yeah, when we get our rights back, gosh, that just drives me up the wall when somebody says when we get our rights back.
Yep.
Yeah. I never lost mine.
That's what I'm saying. But in getting people that knowledge, and that comes back, that ties in the education component. Where as a society are we with teaching our kids about those unalienable rights from a young age, right? We've been a little sleepy.
Yeah. Like in school, I was having a conversation the other day with someone talking about the whole Common Core BS. You know, that's part of how we're where we are now. When that Common Core crap started, I know some people that took their children out of actual school. I know some people that did it on their own. They got them a virtual program. They made some different moves. I don't think it ever got to the point where I think it should have just flipped. I think people should have. There's a lot more that should have happened with that. There should have been consequences. You can't take math. And here the old fashioned thing is I can do long division like nobody's business. Try to get me to do some Common Core stuff. I'm going to light it on fire. It's crap. There is no new math. Math has been around how many years now? It's not going to change. It is what it is.
Right. And that's the thing. Like, why are you redefining math? Because the more you can take away people's ability to do things on their own, the more you can do what to them?
Make them dependent upon the government, and they'll follow you anywhere that, you know, they can go, because here's that $5. You got to take the $5 for them to realize how much the $5 was a blessing to them. Yeah.
Well, here's the thing. If I and I know this from my kids, if I just give my kids everything and expect nothing in return from them, I am hating my children. Again, redefinition of the word. I'm hating my kids if I spoil them rotten. My kids have a ton of stuff, by the way. But you know what? They work their butts off. Mm-hmm. They have chores. I don't do housework mostly very often unless it's like in my own private space, because my kids do it. You know why? Because they live there and I work and I pay for the house. When they grow up, they will know how to work and pay for a house. Indeed. And they'll know how to raise their kids the same way I did. You see, and I'll tell you this: I got 14-year-old boys I trust with really, really expensive machinery, go out in the woods by themselves and handle it all day long. They can fix things. They're like beyond 99% of the kids that are their age, because I don't hate them by spoiling them and expecting nothing in return. You see, and what happens when you start handing out money or handing out goods or handing out housing and you're not getting anything in return, you're hating those people. It is the definition of systematic hate or systemic hate when you take a society or a city like Detroit. And it's provable. You take a city like Flint or Detroit, or Maxine Waters district over there, Compton in California. And you hand out money and you hand out money, Camden, New Jersey, you hand out money and you hand out these things. And it's not the people's fault that you handed it to them. It's just like if I raised my kids with lack of this knowledge. Well, you have these people that literally, it's like, what did we talk about the other day, Ryan? You go to a Yellowstone, what's the sign you see everywhere?
Do not feed the bears.
Why can't you feed the bears? The bears are hungry. I got a sandwich. I'm done. Why can't I give it to the bears?
Now the bear's not going to know how to get food on its own. It's going to be coming when it gets hungry, looking for food. It's wintertime. You're not there. If you do it once or twice, not a big deal. But if you do it a whole bunch of times, it takes it away. And the thing is, the sign is there so that nobody does it any times. That way the bears survive on their own. And you know what? Bears survive on their own because they always figure out a way, right? Yep. So you don't get to feed the bears. And people are just like bears. And they need to become educated.
And Ryan, to clarify, you and me are the same way, right? I'm just like a bear too. If somehow I was just handed everything, I would. This is not a statement against any certain person, right? This is just how it is. Yep. I just want to state that because I know that your shirt would be calling you a racist right now.
A white supremacist.
Right. But
let's talk about, before we get, can we jump on the white supremacist thing real quick?
Yeah.
I can go back to the fascist thing. I think that's a good point, right? They want to project that. They want to make people feel bad, right? And I've seen people that aren't even white people that have been called white supremacists. And so, you're trying to figure out, that must be Common Core math some way, somehow. But what about communist supremacy? When we see what the CCP is doing, what happens in football, right? Somebody's always trying to win and be the best team, right? Somebody's always, fighting for supremacy. So what we're doing with that word and how we're approaching that, right? I just think it's interesting when that word gets thrown around with no real proof or evidence of anything that aligns with what it really means. I've even done this in a few interviews. People have said something about white supremacy, and I ask, what does that mean to you? Make them define it back to me. Make them categorize it in some actions. And so let's talk about communist supremacy, right? Because we're on this whole talk of, fascism and redefinition of words. And we see a lot of projection, as we've talked about, coming in the past with, these certain groups of people, fascist supremacy, right? And they're going to use forcible suppression by saying words that are going to make you feel bad, right? Oh, I don't want them to call me a racist or a white supremacist or call me a fascist. And so they continue to say those things, projecting what they really are in order to make you sit down and shut up and forcibly suppress you.
The housing, and I can attest to this because I've been in some interesting situations being single and having children, especially being from Flint. Their housing situation is like, you apply to live somewhere like in an apartment or whatever, and clearly it's like federally funded, like local, state, whatever you want to call that. And there's like a waiting list for like a year and a half. And then it's this particular place, there were six units like in one building. 3 of them were empty. Then we had neighbors next door. But that's exactly it. Like, okay, so here this is, help you with somewhere to live, but they don't really ask enough in return. And when you hand out I mean, like housing or food, when you hand out a certain amount, like the scale doesn't balance, because I basically did volunteer. Like we put in gardens and was teaching classes and working in the community center. And because that's just, I'm an activist wherever I go, like I just do that. We're feeding people and most importantly, giving people the knowledge and the tools if they wanted them to like come to cooking classes or different things like that. I participated in all types of stuff, and so did my children. But look, we were doing what we could to like tip that scale where we were at. We had a tenant council, and of course I was like president. But let me tell you about this whole democratically like led Flint thing. It was called the Flint Housing Commission, and I just busted all of y'all out. So the lady that was supposed to come and like officiate, because we would have meetings once every week, and once every 2 weeks we'd meet on the weekend or whatever, and we'd talk about things. And so we were supposed to actually have a tenant council because we were representing like 100 and something families. That's a lot of people in one spot. They couldn't even be bothered. We and I learned through different programs and studying horticulture like how to do grant writing. So I hooked up with a church that would come every week. They had programs, after school stuff. And so we went in together and worked on a grant. And then through the Community Foundation of Greater Flint, we received money. So the church, their aspect, like their group, they got some money, which paid for a whole lot of us to go to the Detroit Zoo. This was years ago. It was badass. It was amazing because like that's how much input I had on it. But I went to represent our group, and I broke down and cried because our group, we didn't have the paperwork because this one lady who could never get her wig to be, right, an older lady, brown skinned lady. She was the one holdup where we could have had like $5,000 to do anything. Could have went to Applewood. There's a lot of things to do in Flint, but it's called transportation. A lot of these people, they don't have transportation. A lot of these people, they have multiple children. Sometimes they may not have any, or they have like one child or child in college or whatever. But it was just that, that it was hard to see that balance. And we were out here pushing so hard. Like we took our own stuff that we bought, like our sports equipment in there, and people, they just went crazy. Like we had like hockey over here. We were doing art over here. We had math tutor. We had all types of stuff going on in the same center. So it's like, yeah, I'm not even, like I'm from Flint. I haven't lived here that long. We stayed there for like 4 years, and we just did whatever we could. We picked up garbage. We recycled stuff. We were always riding our bikes. So we would like grab kids, oh, Miss Lowe, can we go bike ride? Sure you can. Let's go. They'd be knocking on the door. Can Jay come fix the bike? Sure you can. That's the type of people we are. That's what we do. So when, oh, well, I'm from here and I don't have this opportunity. You got as much damn opportunity as everyone else. We may not always have a fair shake, but guess what? You got to keep shaking anyway. And when the door closes on you, it's closed on all of us. You got to kick that damn door down, blow the doorknob off. You got to do something. You got to keep on pushing. You got to make it fair and make it equal, and stand up. Because that is crap. Like, here's somewhere to live. And then they got mad at you when you did stand up to do something. Like, they just wanted you to sit there and be subservient. They wanted you to be submissive. They wanted you to need that, that funding. That's correct.
So, Jason, you mentioned a minute ago, sometimes they don't want something in return. And Nikki, thanks for sharing that story, because that brought a whole scope together for what is it that they want in return. Keep them in power.
Yep.
Like Nancy Pelosi says, we feed them. We feed them. Oh, we feed them.
And they turn the water off.
We feed for that. We feed them.
They had turned the water off too, because you had to have a key to because the water was on the main building where the manager's office is. And I remember one weekend, and they know, we asked for permission because you had to have permission to put a garden in or whatever. So we did that. I remember we went to get water, so we couldn't use their water. So it was like 15 children. So we were like bringing water from our apartment and just hauling it. We had a dolly, just hauling it to the gardens. So that's exactly what that is. Oh, we feed you, and this is our water, and this is God's water. This is God's planet.
Democrats like that. They don't want the education to come in, where all of a sudden all those people that you're talking about, they all said, hey, look, it was hard. We made it. You said something like make it happen, right? You make it, right? And I thought that was good. Like, yeah, you just have to make it, right? All of us. And some of us have different starting points. There's no doubt. And how can we make it so that maybe there's a little bit better of a playing field for everybody? I think a lot of that comes down to education. a lot of that. There's a lot of different moving parts there, and I won't get too far into that. But yeah, those certain people in power, they are looking to stay in power, and they don't want people to have the real education on how to do it and how to make it happen.
Well, I think we look at a lot of different things like that. When you talk about a government that's providing just enough, right? So let me ask you, is that life really a life? Because what that seems like to me is that they're creating voter farms. They're not really giving people a life. Like, you think about life. What is life? Life is going out and experiencing what God has given us, right? God has given us this amazing planet. People say it's a small world. It's not. There's tons of stuff to see. And they've given us these amazing beings that we are to create all of this crazy stuff that we've created, to do all of this awesome stuff. But what you get if you live under their control is basically exactly what they allow you to have, which is enough to make ends almost meet, but they never touch. The carrot's always an inch away. And the problem with that is not life, okay? If you talk to people that have grown up in society in those conditions, a lot of them, a high percentage of them, will tell you that they've never been outside of their home city.
Yep.
Like, if you go to Detroit, a lot of people have not ever left Detroit. That is communism. That is exactly communism. It is a society where you are fed just enough to do what they need you to do. And people say, yeah, but isn't that a burden? How does that work? What does the government need them for? Vote. That's it. Nothing else. They don't need them to produce anything but more voters.
Yep. Isn't that the truth?
And you tell me who the systemic racism can be blamed upon. Tell me who the systemic hate. We could just leave the word racism right out of it. It's hate. Yep. Because it doesn't matter if a pasty white guy like me grows up in the hood under those same conditions. I am still a victim, and I'm not going to play a victim, and I'm not making them a victim. I'm saying I am being victimized until I open up. Yeah, open air prison.
Wow.
Right? And a lot of people, if you talk to, and I have a lot of experience in the city of Detroit, and a lot of people won't cross 8 Mile. Yep. They won't. Like, I'm not going over there. I'll get arrested.
I've been told that too.
They literally believe for driving across 8 Mile, they'll get arrested.
Yep.
You know, and that is from what you're saying, that's an open air prison, right? That's a great example.
Wow.
So I will say this. I think that we have really made a great case tonight. Look back at what we've talked about. We've went from all the redefinition of words. They have redefined what they are so that it's acceptable. If they came out and said, listen, we're alt-right, super far-right, fascist, Hitler-loving, Mussolini-loving, fascist people, and the only thing we care about is power, and we want to take over the whole world, by the way, how many people would go, oh, all right, yeah, that's cool, man, we'll vote for you? How many people will cheat to help them stay in office?
Maybe we'll find out in the next couple of weeks.
I sure hope so. The fear, the level of fear that these people have produced, and it's not even people, it's this evil has produced in this world. Yep. And I'll leave you with a final thought, because this is something Ryan and I have talked about. We're in America, right? And in America, we've been spoiled in a way. We don't realize that the world isn't like, it's not old-fashioned for countries to be constantly struggling for power and for somebody to always be wanting to take over the world. It's just that we haven't been exposed to it in our lifetimes in America. So it's really hard for you the viewer and me and your sister and my sister and your brother and my brother to see what really is going on in America, because we're like, wait a minute, this couldn't be, they couldn't be that bad. There's no way that they cheated in the election. I'm going to tell you, I think they've cheated in the last several elections.
Yep.
And I'm going to tell you, it's not just Democrats. I'm going to tell you that I don't think George W. had a fair election. I'm just going to go and say that out loud.
Sure did.
And I'm going to tell you that they're all this globalist, fascist regime, and that Donald Trump is not the reason that they hate Donald Trump.
Nope.
The things he says, the whatever, being rude or whatever everything they accuse him of is nonsense. They don't care about that. What they care about,
they listen to.
Yep. What they care about is he is not them. That somehow the wrong guy won the election he wasn't supposed to, and that screwed up their world domination plot. Because America is a problem for them. Too many free thinkers here still. And what they're trying to do is dumb it down, because we're the last power in the world that has free thinking.
Yep.
They want this global. America's in the way because we stand for this.
That's why they got the alcohol, tobacco, and firearms and explosives. I never understood how any of that went together. They're doing what they can to supersede, gun laws. They're showing up at people's houses. They're showing up at warehouses because, again, fear. Well, if you want what I got, you can come get it. I don't think you're going to get it, but you can try.
Just understand that we must stay America. And it's not just nationalism. This is true love for the world, because if America falls, the world's going to become a very dark place.
We don't have anywhere to go.
Can I ask a question? It's great you just said that, Nikki. Real question. From all those dark places across the world right now, that these people look to go somewhere, where do they go?
They come here.
Why?
Because we're free.
Because they have an opportunity to build a life worth living. Jason, you mentioned a little bit ago in some of these areas where there's, voter farms and, true oppression. Are they really living a life worth living, or are they just existing? And we can get into that on a different show. But the point is that people come here, and they always have come here from all over the world for a chance to live a life worth living. In China, you don't have a middle class where you can get to do the American dream, where you can get a job, you can have extra cash, go on vacations, and live this amazing life. People come here for that. They always have. We need more good people to come here. I see a lot of people that immigrate here legally.
Yep.
Are way more patriotic.
I was talking about that too. Exactly. Like Jasmine. We all know our sister Jasmine.
That's right, for sure. And many, many others like her. And they come from China, and they come from Africa, and they come from Russia, and they come from places all across Europe. And they are Americans. Mm-hmm. They love this country.
And that let's end this on that, because immigration's an important point on this, and we got to wrap the show up. But you were talking earlier, Nikki, and it reminded me of something with immigration. Immigration has been redefined. They call them undocumented immigrants or undocumented citizens or whatever. The reason America is so great is because you have to be a patriot to immigrate here. You have to be. You have to want the American dream so bad that you cross the world, you leave your communist or your oppressive government, and you you stow away on a ship, and you wash up on in New York, and you do whatever you can. You get your papers right, and you take your classes, and you become a citizen, and you know so much more than most American people that have been schooled in this indoctrination thing that we call school know about America, and you're such a great thing for the world and for us, and when they take that away and they say, open the borders, just let them pour in and vote for us. Again, votes, the only reason. And let them come on in. Those people aren't patriots. They're criminals. That's not a patriot. Somebody who crosses in from the south or crosses in from the north with a bunch of drugs, or from the south with a bunch of plans to kidnap Americans and take them south so that they can ransom them, or coming up from Colombia with drugs, or making meth in Tijuana and bringing it across the Californian border. That is not a patriot. And that is why it's so important to bring back the original definition of immigration, and why it's so important not to let this evil change it. And so I want to end with this. Next week we are going to either put on a show at a special time, because Christmas Eve is Thursday. So we're going to either do a special time or a special location, or something cool is going to happen next week. So stay tuned. We'll send out the information. But tonight, thank you for watching. Make sure you share this with some people, and get out there, think critically, and be a patriot. I know you are. Anything you guys want to say on the way out? Merry Christmas.
Happy holidays.
Things I could say, but we'll end it with the Merry Christmas. Stay patriotic, stay positive, stay looking forward. We will fight for American freedom from now until forever, because God's on our side and we ain't going nowhere.
Exactly. We love you, guys.
Merry Christmas.